Mastering yourself means you can become a master of things in your life. When you can't master yourself, you become foolish. And being foolish, man, loose minds lose money. Loose minds lose relationships. Loose minds lose marriages, lose relationships with children. They lose everything. Hi, my name is Bill Pienias. And if you don't know me, that's okay. I've been a business builder, entrepreneur in the financial services of business for the last 27 years. And many people ask me, if you were to start over again, what would you do? Well, I want to talk about that because I find that many people are asking me that question more often. And I actually have young children, so when I say young, they're in their young 20s. So if you're here and listening to this and watching this and you're in your 20s, or you're in your 40s, or even if you're in your 50s, it's not too late to recreate yourself, to transform yourself. It's not too late. But if you really do want to transform and transition your life into a much different direction or a better direction, let's talk about some principles that have changed my life. And I want to give you basically 9 principles that if I were to do it all over again, I would spend more time and more intention in these areas. So let's dive into it. The very first one is the greatest thing in your life to earn income is your skills. So I would spend much more time talking to skillful people and developing skills. So here's just a list of skills that I would invest in. First one is communication skills. And communication skills is really important. It's using the words you say in a way to paint a picture. Second is storytelling. Become a master storyteller. I can tell you there's some people that are good storytellers and bad storytellers. Here's an indicator of whether you're a good storyteller or not. Can you tell a joke? I'll be honest with you. That's storytelling 101. And if you can't, you might need some practice. How about building teams and relationships? That is a skill set. Part of the relationship part is how do you build connections? There's a great book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. I would suggest that you read that. But the reality of building a relationship is creating connections, at least 3 connection points. But most importantly about building a relationship is be an authentic person and be real with people. And if you can, believe it or not, the showboating, that stuff people can see it through that a mile away. But being a real person, sharing your heart, talking about things that mean something, that have substance in life, it's a great way to build relationships. But building teams is even more important, and it's really important. This is the thing about building teams. Do you have a common vision, a common goal, and common systems that you can work together with to go become a team? I was a football coach, and part of the thing about a team is you got to win, you got to beat the other team. But everybody's on the same page of a system, and they have to depend on each other, and that's one of the great camaraderies of teams. So that's a skill set that I would do. The third one, public speaking. If you don't learn how to publicly speak, you're really going to have a problem with earning income. I can tell you this is a statistic that I've read several places, that if you become a good public speaker, you can increase your income by 10 times. That's a fact. So every time that I've developed better speaking skills and communication skills from a public platform, my income and my ability to earn has drastically increased. Focusing on money mastery. Many people have money master them. What I mean by that is they're always working for money, they're always chasing money, but they're never learning the principles of money, of how to invest money. There's a rule that's called the rule of 72. I would ask you, learn that rule, because here's the thing. In order for you to win a money game, you have to win the double game. And if you don't get your money working for you, you're never going to have it double. This is the other thing I learned about money. Money never gets tired, it never gets sick, it does exactly what you tell it to do. But the problem is most people don't tell it to do anything. I'm asking you and I'm telling you that skill set of learning how money works and the principles of money is critical. Here's the other part about money. I would be a saver way more than a spender. My mom and dad, they were great spenders, not very good savers. And the only way that they could really save money was actually in their house. because they always paid their mortgage payment. If you save money and invest money, you'll be surprised pretty soon your money, because it doesn't get sick or tired and it always works, will soon earn more money than you can, and then you can have a situation where retirement and financial independence is all but inevitable. So focus on those things and focus on whether you're going to be a spender or a saver. So here's a practical thing that I did. Every day I would take $10 and I would put it in an envelope. Every day. Every single day, I would take $10 and put it in an envelope. At the end of the day, end of the month, I had at least $300, except in February, I'd have $280. And I would have it in an envelope, cash. And I would take it and I would go put it in and buy a CD or money market account. If I were to do it all over again, I would take that money and I would transfer it into buying an S&P 500 ETF or a mutual fund. Why? Because I didn't know that much about the market. I didn't know that much about investing, but I did know that all of the big players are trying to beat the S&P 500, and I know that 85% of all money managers don't beat the S&P 500. So let's invest in the thing that they're trying to beat. And guess what? I have a chance to win the money game. The other thing that I would tell you about, which is really critical about money management, is making sure that you save money when you get raises. Money management is real simple. If you don't have it, you don't spend it. And you say, well, what does that mean? I would have my money taken out of my checks before I get it. Invest in your 401k plan. Invest in your 403b plan if you're a teacher. Invest in those plans, and at the very minimum, at least up to the matching. If they don't match, put in as much money as you can, and then when you get a raise, take half of that raise and put it back into that thing. You keep the other half. Yeah, you still got a raise, you still got a little bit more money, but you also increased your savings, you also increased your investing, and believe it or not, that is critical to becoming successful. And if I were to do it all over again, that's what I would do. Every time that I earned more money or I got a raise, I wouldn't necessarily drastically increase my lifestyle, but I would definitely increase my investing. The other skill set, know thyself. And what I mean by know thyself is most people, they are so forgiving for themselves, but they're totally unforgiving to other people. They will totally accept themselves to oversleeping. They will totally accept themselves of getting out of shape. They'll totally accept themselves to be borrowing money. But boy, if somebody else did that, man, and this is the funny part. If you don't master yourself, you actually become a fool. Let me say that again. Mastering yourself means you can become a master of things in your life. When you can't master yourself, you become foolish. And being foolish, man, loose minds lose money. Loose minds lose relationships. Loose minds lose marriages, lose relationships with children. They lose everything. Loose minds. And part of that is know thyself. It's called self-order. That's one thing I would spend more time on, is my self-order and self-discipline. And here's the last thing. Find what you do well and do it. I promise you, you're going to make more money on the things that you're good at than the things that you love. And until you become great at the things that you love, you're not going to make that much money. So it's important of those skills. That's the things that I would focus on for my skill set. Now, let's talk about a very important piece. I would invest some money in my clothing. Believe it or not, your attire actually matters. People say, well, I like to be comfortable. You know what? You can be comfortably broke, or you can actually be mindful of your attire and become wealthy. Yes, there's hundreds of people that wear t-shirts and shorts and they go to work, but most people don't. If you show up like that as a doctor, I promise you I don't want you as a doctor. I want another doctor. If somebody showed up to a construction site that was actually supposed to do work at my house and looked like they were going to the beach, I promise you, I would go get another person. See, your attire matters. If you want to act like a professional, dress like a professional. If you want to act like a bum, dress like a bum. And I hate to say it. They say, oh, but Bill, times are different today. No, they're not. People are people are people. Now you might be a little bit more casual, and I'm a little bit more casual right now. I'm not in a suit and tie, but you know what? I'm still professional. I'm still dressed professionally. Your attire will dictate how people treat you, especially if you want to be in a professional career. It matters. Here's another thing that I would do differently if I were to start all over again. I would be more interested in the things that I'll call what wealthy people do. And what they do is they invest money into places that hold capital and develop capital. So let me talk about what that means. Wealthy people will tell you, in order for you to get wealthy, you have to acquire capital and you have to deploy capital. So that means when you get assets or you get money, how do you invest it? How do you get it to work for you? There are really only a few areas that I've found that you can develop capital. First one, your house. You have equity in your home. And if I were to do it over again, I would actually look to managing my capital, my equity in my home a little differently. We could talk all about the methods of having home equity loans and things like so, home equity lines of credit and things of that sort versus emergency funds and things of that sort too. But I would manage my equity of my home slightly differently because it's a way for us to accumulate capital. I will give you an example. My father and mother, I already said, were not very good savers. They were very good spenders. But they always paid their mortgage and they always paid attention to their mortgage. Now, because they bought a house that had a big increase in the value of their home, it increased the asset or their capital and their equity in their home. They used that equity to educate their children because they didn't save for college. And the only way that they could do that was through the equity of their home. Well, that equity only can increase based on the value of the home. But if you were to take some of that equity of the home and use it for things that would increase more equity, or if there's an emergency, you have access to that capital to allow you to maneuver and get the things that are required for you to move your life forward. That's the first thing in your home. The second is in retirement plans. That's usually where most people start to acquire capital. That's 401k plans, that's 403b plans, that's IRAs, things of that sort. Some people don't realize that life insurance is a third one because, believe it or not, it's a way for you to develop cash value and it has protection from taxes and creditors and things of that sort. And the last part is a brokerage account or savings account. That's another way for you to accumulate assets. And that's, stocks and bonds, mutual funds and things of that sort. It's another way for you to accumulate capital. But I would spend more time looking at accumulating capital and then using the savings plans that I mentioned earlier to fill those buckets with as much capital as possible. You will never go broke paying for good advice. And I'm going to tell you something. That has been more true in my life than ever. But then the biggest question is, well, how do you know it's good advice? Because a lot of times people pay for advice, and there's a lot of people that want to give you advice. But what's good advice? I would ask a lot of questions, which means if I have a problem, I go to the people that I know are experts, or I go to people that know experts, and I always ask for 3 referrals. I want to ask 3 people about that question and or that problem or that issue. And then I can make a decision on which one do I believe is going to give me the best advice. It may not be the cheapest, but it needs to be the best and or it needs to be concise. And I can tell you, you never go broke with paying for good advice. If I were to do it over again, I would seek good mentors and I would seek good coaches and I would look to find a good mechanic, a good construction professional, a good lawyer, and a good accountant. Those are good people for you to get good advice and good direction. The next thing, if I were to do it differently, is not wait. Don't wait to save money. Don't wait to pay down your debt. Some people say, you know what, you have some debt. You don't need to save any money. Don't worry about it. No. You take care of you. You know what, you're young. You're going to have plenty of time to go save money and invest money. I also hear, you know what, you have plenty of time that you're going to be working and you're going to be, so go on vacation and go spend some time. I'm going to tell you, do not delay the inevitable. And what I mean by that is the number one thing that I have found that what they say, the dirty tricks of the devil is that you delay what you know you're supposed to do. You delay. And don't delay. I wouldn't have delayed, and this is one of the things I wouldn't have delayed. In order for you to have a good retirement, you need to save at least a car payment towards your long-term retirement. If you invested $500 a month at 10%, and you started at 25, did you know at 55, you would have $1.1 million? But if you waited just 5 years, you waited, and you say, you know what, I'm not going to do 25, because I want to go have some fun. I got to live. Guys got to live. I got to go have some beer. I got to go hang out with my boys. I got to go play golf. I do a little vacation. Hey, my friends are vacation. I just got to go do me. 5 years later, I started 30, and I still save $500 at 10%. But instead of doing it at 25, I do it at 30. I only have $669,000. Those 5 years cost me $500,000. It's just irresponsible. And if I were to do it over again, I would start sooner. I would be more aggressive and more intentional on doing these things. And let's kind of talk about some things that I would invest in. Like I talked about, I would be investing my money more. I would be investing in getting my money working for me. But here's the other things that I would invest in. I'd invest in my family. I'll be very honest with you. I chased my career way harder than I chased my wife. I would date my wife. Date your spouse. Don't think just because you're married, they'll always be there. And remember I told you, man, it'll always come. That I just talked about don't delay. I thought I had so much time. And I'm going to be very honest with you, transparent with you. I looked at the pictures of my children, and there were many times I didn't even remember those pictures. You know why? Because I wasn't there. The one thing that I did do well is I actually made sure I had one-on-one time with my daughter, and I had one-on-one time with my two sons. It didn't happen often, but it happened consistently. And today I have good relationships with them, but it's by the grace of God that happened. And the interesting part with my wife and I wish I would have dated her like I really loved her the way that I really love her. Because I always believe, because she loved me, she's always going to be there. And I'm going to tell you that. Too many times people look back because of a divorce or hurt and things of that sort. Man, date your spouse and spend the one-on-one time with your children. Invest in your family. The other part is invest in your physical fitness. I can tell you right now, you can have all the money in the world and you have no health, you have nothing. You would spend all your money to get that health. But the reality is, if you don't have any health, you're done. You have nothing. And you can have all the health in the world, no money, you have no fun. And I will be honest with you, your physical fitness is critical. Why? The more physically fit you are, the more energy you have. The more physically fit you are, the more things that you can do, the longer you can work, the longer you can do things, you have more energy. But it's a really important part. Don't let yourself go because I want to be physically fit for my wife. I want to be physically fit for my kids. I want to be physically fit for my spouse. Because if I'm physically fit, that means that one, I want to look attractive to them. I want to present myself to them that they matter. I also want to present myself with energy, and I want to present myself with discipline to my children so that I can actually do the things that I want to do with them when I want to do them. And the critical part about being fit, it sets the example that your physical fitness is in a direct correlation to your mental health, to your physical health, and to everything else around you. It also is one of the good signs and clear signs about self-order. So I would put more effort in that. There was a guy that told me one time in business, he said, don't worry about, because I wasn't working out, I was working hard. He said, don't worry about getting out of overweight. Just to tell you, however much your stomach is out, as long as your wallet is bigger, you're okay. What a crop. It's a crock. When you believe lies, they hold you in bondage. And I let my health go. And I was an athlete. I loved working out and things of that sort, but I knew I was chasing this dream of money and I was chasing this dream of business. And you let yourself go physically, I promise you, it affected everything. It affected my energy. It affected my relationships. It affected everything in my life. Thank God I'm with a company that actually does those things. I built a company around making sure that you become more financially fit, physically fit, so you can have the lifestyle to enjoy it, because it's critical that you get these things right. Believe it or not, your physical fitness is directly correlated to your lifestyle. And then the next thing I would do very, very intentionally, I would get together with a group of men, and if you're a woman, a group of women, to do life together that have common interests. And I'm not talking about, going to the bar and beer drinking you going to XYZ. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about, in church, it's called discipleship. In bowling, it's called the bowling league. Those men that go to the bowling league and they do life together. They've been doing it for 20, 30 years together. They share their lives with each other. Those are the things that matter, because what's interesting, I've learned that when you walk and do life together with real people, you build real relationships, and when you need it, and everybody comes in a time of need, you have a shoulder to lean on. You have some hands that can lift you up. And the thing that I've learned most about life, it sucks doing it alone. When you do it together with other people and you have a community or team, man, it makes life so much more interesting. It makes life better. It enables you to get picked up when you're low, and it enables you to pick up other people when they're low. And the best part about it is, when you fly high, man, you fly better in unison, just like birds. It's easier and more efficient in your life when you have good quality people around you. And the last thing that I'll tell you, most of the time in business, they say, keep it bland. I'm going to tell you something that's personal and to the heart. I would live my life on biblical principles. I didn't always do that. And the biblical principle I'm talking about is to love fully and live authentically with God and others. And I can tell you, that part of my life, sometimes I was inauthentic. And you know what? It ruined relationships. The biblical principle of giving rather than taking is a huge principle that I should have lived by way more than I did. And that also meant giving my time, giving my energy, giving my ideas, just what we're doing here today. I wish I would have done more of that. And what's interesting is there's a thing that says what comes around goes around. It does. I've found that the more I give, it's the more I get. I get better relationships. I learn more things. When I give knowledge, I gain more knowledge. They say what goes through you sticks to you. As I'm teaching these things, they become more permanent in my life. They become more strong and stable in my life. And the one thing that I've really learned about this biblical principle method is my way is so faulted. The time-tested things that I've learned from the biblical principles have realized that it's passed the test of time. And I have been actively living these principles for a number of years. My life today is 100-fold better than it was back then. And for those people that I've known in my younger days, I hate to say it, but the Bill today is way different than the Bill that was then. And I apologize. I ask for your forgiveness, but more importantly is I want you to know I learned from that. So thank you for teaching me those lessons. And I'll leave this last parting thought. The principles that I just talked about of what I would do differently is I would take more care about myself. I would take more care of my money. I would take more care of the relationships that I'm in. And I would definitely take more care of my spiritual and mental well-being. I would be more focused on that. And I would want men in my life, or if you're a woman, women in your life that will help you build on these four things, because that is the fifth piece, is that camaraderie, that communion, which creates this fist of people, of things that becomes almost impenetrable. So as you're in this walk of life, whether you're 20, 30, 40, or 50, you have a chance to change your life. If you want to transform your life, I would ask that you take and consider the things that we just talked about. And if there's other ways that I can help you, please DM me. I'm on social media. Send me a message. Would love to help. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Follow us on social media to stay updated on future episodes and join the conversation. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay inspired, stay curious, and keep striving for greatness.